Golden light pools across the polished wood stage, casting the grand piano in a warm glow that seems to breathe with anticipation. I sit in the third row, program clutched between my fingers, watching my daughter approach the bench with the quiet confidence that always makes my chest tighten with pride. Elodie, my 11-year-old miracle, smooths her burgundy dress before settling on the bench. Her slender fingers hover above the keys for 3 heartbeats. I count them in my own pulse before descending to release the first haunting notes of Clair de Lune. The audience disappears. There is only Elodie, the music, and the invisible thread between us that has strengthened through every hospital visit, every midnight medication check, every triumph against the odds that brought us here. I breathe with her phrases, my lips silently counting the measures as she navigates the familiar waters of Debussy. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. The ritual counting steadies me as surely as her daily pills steady her. Thina hesitation. My counting falters as her right hand pauses a fraction too long. Most wouldn't notice, but I feel it like a skip in my own heartbeat. Her left hand continues, compensating, but something shifts in her posture. Another stumble, this time more pronounced. Her shoulders tense. The delicate architecture of the piece begins to crumble. I lean forward, suddenly aware of the wooden chair edge cutting into my thighs. The mother radar that has kept Elodie alive for 11 years screams inside my skull. Her fingers lift completely from the keys. In the terrible silence, I see her sway once, twice. Then Elodie crumples, her forehead striking the keys with a discordant crash before she slides sideways off the bench and onto the stage floor. Elodie! The scream tears from my throat before I even realize I'm standing. I shove past knees and handbags, stumbling over feet as I rush toward the stage. Let me through! I'm her mother. By the time I reach her, a small crowd has gathered. The recital coordinator, Mrs. Bennett, fans Elodie's face with a program while a man in a tweed jacket suggests opening a window. Stage fright, someone whispers. Performance anxiety, another voice offers. I push through them all, dropping to my knees beside my daughter. Her face is paper white, her breathing shallow. I cradle her head in my lap, fingers automatically searching for her pulse too fast, too thready. Elodie, honey, I whisper, brushing damp hair from her forehead. Can you hear me? Her eyelids flutter but don't open. Someone call 911. I order, my hospital administrator voice cutting through the murmurs. I reach for her small crossbody purse, fingers fumbling with the zipper to find her medication case, the one that never leaves her side. The familiar blue plastic container clicks open in my palm. The pills look right small, round, white. But 11 years of measuring, counting, and dispensing medication has taught me to recognize the subtlest differences. These are too white, too uniform, too perfect. I hesitate only a moment before touching my tongue to the edge of one pill. No bitterness, just sweet dissolution. Sugar. Ice floods my veins as understanding crashes through me. I look up at the circle of concerned faces, suddenly seeing them all as potential threats. Someone tampered with her medication. I announce, my voice dangerously calm. The crowd draws back slightly, confused. These are sugar pills. Without her medication, Elodie's condition would deteriorate over hours, not minutes. This was deliberate, calculated, timed for maximum public impact. EMTs push through the crowd just as Elodie stirs slightly in my arms. Ma'am, we need to check her vitals, a young paramedic says, kneeling beside us. I nod, but don't release my grip on Elodie. Her name is Elodie Lawrence. She has congenital adrenal hyperplasia. Someone replaced her medication with sugar pills. His eyes widen briefly before professionalism takes over. We'll start an IV right away. How long since her last proper dose? My mind races backward through our morning routine. Elodie at the kitchen counter, counting pills into her daily organizer while I packed her recital bag. The memory crashes into another. My sister Sloane's unexpected visit, her too bright smile as she wished Elodie luck, the way she lingered near Elodie's things while I answered a call from my mother. Approximately 8 hours, I answer mechanically. But she shouldn't have crashed this hard, this fast. Someone wanted this to happen. Here, now. As they lift Elodie onto a stretcher, her eyelids flutter again. Mom? Her voice is barely audible. I squeeze her hand. I'm right here, baby. I'm not leaving you. Over the paramedic's shoulder, I catch sight of a familiar cream-colored blazer slipping out the back exit of the recital hall. Sloan. The pieces click into place with terrible clarity. The surprise visit this morning, my mother's phone call emphasizing the importance of Sloane's upcoming wedding, Sloane's barbed comment about Elodie being the golden child. Rage builds in my chest, a living thing with teeth and claws. Not now, not yet. First Elodie, then justice. I follow the stretcher, keeping Elodie's cold hand in mine, my mind already calculating what comes next. Someone tried to hurt my child, that someone is family, and they have no idea what they've just awakened. 10 minutes later, the hospital waiting room gleams with two bright fluorescents, casting harsh shadows beneath Sloane's expertly contoured cheekbones. She sits with one leg crossed over the other, scrolling through her phone, burgundy nail tapping impatiently against its rose gold case. I stand for a moment watching her, my sister, my blood, the woman who poisoned my child. You switched her medication. My voice cuts through the antiseptic quiet. Not a question. Sloane looks up, blinking slowly like a cat disturbed from a nap. She slips her phone into her purse, the ghost of a smile playing at her lips. Well, hello to you too, Meredith. The pills in Elodie's case were sugar. You replaced her medication with sugar pills. Sloane shrugs one shoulder, the cream blazer rising and falling in a casual dismissal that makes my fingers curl into fists. A little embarrassment might help your kid chill out. Always so perfect, so special. She examines her manicure. Some kids need to learn that life isn't always perfect. The words strike like separate blows. My vision narrows until all I see is Sloane's unconcerned face. Behind me, the elevator chimes. Sloane, darling. I came as soon as I heard. My mother's voice, breathless with concern that never extended to Elodie in her hospital bed. Virginia Halbrook sweeps in wearing camel cashmere, her pearl earrings catching the light as she bends to kiss Sloane's cheek. She turns to me with a tight smile. Meredith, how's Elodie? Stable. No thanks to Sloane. Virginia's hand flutters to her throat. What are you implying? She's not implying anything, Sloane cuts in. She's flat out accusing me of tampering with precious Elodie's pills. And did you? I demand, stepping closer. Virginia inserts herself between us. This isn't the place, Meredith. We need to handle this privately. Privately? The word tastes bitter. Like when you swept Dad's heart condition under the rug until it killed him? Or when Daniel's affair became the family secret everyone whispered about but never addressed? Sloane stands, smoothing her tailored pants. She's fine now, right? So no harm done. No harm? My voice rises despite my effort to control it. She could have died, Sloane. Do you understand that? Her condition. Oh, please, Sloane interrupts, rolling her eyes. Always so dramatic. She fainted at a piano recital, not exactly life or death. It is life or death with Ka. Without her medication, her body can't. Virginia's hand closes around my wrist, her grip surprisingly strong for a woman in her 60s. Sloane was just trying to help. You coddle that child. Everyone sees it. I wrench away from her. Help? How exactly does sabotaging her medication help? Sloane checks her watch, an anniversary gift from our father that she wears despite having contributed nothing to his care during his illness. Look, we have bigger concerns. We can't let this mess up my wedding plans. The venue requires final payment next week. The callousness steals my breath. In the suspended moment, a message notification chimes from Sloane's phone. She glances down, face brightening. Corbin's here. She waves past me. I turn to see her fiancé striding toward us, all square jaw and Brooks Brothers confidence. He kisses Sloane before acknowledging me with a nod. Meredith. Virginia. His smile doesn't reach his eyes. What's this about Elodie? Before I can answer, Virginia touches his arm. Nothing serious, dear. You know how children can be for attention sometimes. For attention? The words escape in a strangled whisper. Corbin chuckles, arm around Sloane's waist. Sloane's always been high-spirited. That's what I love about her. High-spirited? I repeat. She tampered with medication that keeps my daughter alive. His smile falters. Virginia jumps in, her voice honey-smooth. Think about the family reputation, Meredith. About appearances. Something in me splinters. Without another word, I walk away, their voices fading behind me. An hour later, after I assured my daughter was sleeping, I went to the old house. Now, I find myself in my father's old study, the one room in his house that Virginia hasn't redecorated since his death. The leather chair still holds the impression of his body. I sink into it, surrounded by books and the lingering scent of his pipe tobacco that Virginia could never quite eliminate. My fingers trace the edge of his desk, finding the hidden drawer release he showed me as a child. Inside lies his worn leather portfolio. I flip it open, not sure what I'm seeking until I see the embossed heading, Halbrook Family Trust. Pages of legal language blur before my eyes until certain phrases leap out. Meredith Ann Lawrence, sole trustee. $2.5 million in diversified assets. Disbursements for family education, medical care, and significant life events. And there, in my father's familiar handwriting, a note in the margin beside a highlighted section labeled Moral Turpitude Clause. Any deliberate harm to family members results in disqualification from trust benefits. I stare at the amendment date, 3 weeks before his death. My phone buzzes. Tessa. I'm in the hospital cafeteria, she says when I answer. Elodie's still sleeping. The nurse said it might be another hour. 30 minutes later, we sit across from each other, the portfolio open between us. Tessa's paralegal training makes her the perfect ally to decode the dense legal text. Your father made you a trustee for a reason, Meredith, she says quietly. I never knew about Sloane's wedding. I tap the itemized disbursement schedule. $137,000, charged entirely to the trust. Tessa's eyes narrow. The moral turpitude clause is clear. Tampering with medication that could have killed Elodie definitely qualifies. I need to be certain. Beyond certain. She slides her tablet across the table, security footage playing silently. Sloane backstage at the recital hall, Elodie's bag open beside her. We have the tainted pills, Tessa says. We have the footage. We have her confession. What else do you need? I close the portfolio, decision crystallizing. Mr. Halbrook's number. 20 minutes later, my father's old friend and attorney confirms what I already know. The decision is entirely yours, Meredith. With steady fingers, I send the email freezing all trust disbursements, effective immediately. My phone rings 10 minutes later. Virginia. What have you done? Her voice trembles with rage. I end the call without answering, only to have another message appear seconds later. From Sloane. You'll regret this. A soft knock interrupts. The nurse peers in. Miss Lawrence? Elodie's awake and asking for you. I find my daughter pale against the hospital sheets, her eyes finding mine immediately. Mom, she whispers. I was so scared. I take her hand, small and warm and alive in mine. No one will ever hurt you like this again. I promise. Not ever. 2 days later, the phone rings for the 5th time this morning. I let it buzz against the kitchen counter while I measure Elodie's medication into her weekly organizer. The rhythm of sorting pills into compartments steadies my breathing, gives my hands something to do besides forming fists. Aren't you going to answer that? Elodie asks, looking up from her breakfast. Her color has returned, but shadows still linger beneath her eyes. Not important, I say, snapping the last compartment closed with a satisfying click. The caller ID flashes Sloane again. I turn the phone face down as it finally stops ringing, only to immediately light up with a text. The venue just called. Payment declined? What did you do? A flutter of satisfaction rises in my chest, but I swallow it down. This isn't about revenge. It's about protection. Elodie watches me with those wise eyes that seem to absorb everything. Is Aunt Sloane still mad about the wedding money? I choose my words carefully. Aunt Sloane is learning that actions have consequences. Like when I don't practice piano and then mess up at lessons? Something like that. I brush a strand of hair from her forehead. Except what she did wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. The phone buzzes again. This time it's the florist, asking for Sloane. I decline the call without a twinge of guilt. By afternoon, my email inbox overflows with forwarded messages from vendors. The caterer threatening collections. The dressmaker demanding immediate payment. The photographer canceling without a deposit. Each message forwarded by Sloane with increasingly hysterical commentary. I'm reviewing hospital admission protocols when my office door flies open without a knock. My mother stands in the doorway, her pearl necklace perfectly centered, her mouth a tight line of disapproval. Virginia, I say, not rising from my desk. The use of her first name makes her lips purse tighter. How could you? She demands, closing the door with controlled precision. Your sister is devastated. My daughter could have died. She waves this away like an annoying insect. Elodie was never in real danger. You're being dramatic. The familiar dismissal scrapes against old wounds. I've heard this refrain my entire life. Meredith the overreactor, Meredith the worrier, Meredith making mountains from molehills. The endocrinologist disagrees, I say, my voice cool. But I suppose your medical expertise trumps his? This family has survived for 3 generations without airing our dirty laundry, she says, sinking into the chair across from my desk. Your father would be ashamed of how you're treating your sister. The mention of my father ignites something deep in my chest. Don't you dare tell me what he would think. I was married to the man for 42 years. And I was his daughter for 40. I lean forward. The daughter he trusted enough to make trustee. Virginia's face hardens. A mistake he didn't live long enough to correct. My phone chirps with a text from Tessa. Got the hospital security footage. It's worse than we thought. I have a meeting, I tell Virginia, standing. This isn't over, Meredith. You're right about that. The barrage intensifies over the next 3 days. Cousins call with concerns about my mental state. Sloane posts tearful videos about her ruined special day that rack up sympathetic comments. Anonymous calls to Elodie's school question my fitness as a parent. I document everything. Mr. Helbrook's office is a sanctuary of leather-bound books and polished wood 3 days later. The family attorney looks exactly as he did when I was a child, visiting my father at work, perhaps a bit grayer at the temples, the lines around his eyes deeper. You were right to come, he says, reviewing the trust documents spread across his desk. What Sloane did constitutes a clear violation of the moral turpitude clause. She claims it was just a prank. He removes his glasses, polishing them methodically. The audio from the hospital security cameras suggests otherwise. We play the recording together. Sloane's voice fills the room, clear and unconcerned. She'll be fine. The kid needs to learn she's not special. My mother's response sends ice through my veins. Meredith has always been too protective. Maybe this will finally teach her. Mr. Helbrook stops the recording. Your father anticipated something like this might happen. He knew Sloane would endanger Elodie. He knew that when pressured, people reveal their true priorities. He pulls a file from his drawer. There's more to the trust than they know, Meredith. That evening, I find myself in my father's study. The room remains untouched since his death. Virginia insisting it stay preserved, out of respect. Now I wonder if she feared what I might find. The bottom desk drawer sticks slightly, just as it always has. Inside, a stack of letters bound with faded blue ribbon. My name in my father's precise handwriting on the top envelope. My dear Meredith, if you're reading this, you've discovered what I long suspected about your mother and sister. Their jealousy runs deeper than you know. Virginia has always resented your independence, and Sloane cannot bear to see attention directed anywhere but herself. I've made you a trustee because you alone understand what truly matters, not appearances or social standing, but integrity and care for others. Trust isn't merely money, it's a test of character. Be stronger than I was. I kept the peace at too high a price. With love and faith in you. Dad. Tears blur my vision, but something stronger than grief fills my chest. Vindication. Purpose. Resolve. Tessa arrives with a timeline of events she's meticulously constructed from Sloane's arrival at our house the morning of the recital to Elodie's collapse hours later. The medical expert's statement came in, she says, handing me a sealed envelope. He's clear that this wasn't a prank. It was a calculated risk that could have resulted in severe medical consequences. I scan the document, medical terminology jumping out. Acute adrenal crisis. Potentially life-threatening. Deliberate tampering. There's more, Tessa says quietly. I found financial discrepancies in the trust accounts. The documents reveal what my father must have suspected: over $70,000 in unauthorized expenses withdrawn by Virginia over the past 3 years. Spa retreats, luxury purchases, weekend getaways labeled as family business. They never thought I'd stand up to them. I realize, the pieces clicking into place. They never thought I'd actually look at the records. What are you going to do? Tessa asks. I gather the evidence into a folder: medical reports, security footage, financial records, my father's letters. The weight of it feels right in my hands. Solid, undeniable. I'm going to show them exactly who they're dealing with, I say. And it's not who they think. The glossy invitation arrives exactly 7 days after I freeze the trust. Thick cream cardstock with gold foil lettering announces a celebration of love for Sloane and Corbin. I note the careful wording, no mention of wedding anywhere. The address listed is for the Harborview Hotel, not the botanical garden Sloane had originally booked. Self-funded celebration, I mutter, running my finger across the embossed letters. Tessa sits across from me at my kitchen table, papers spread between us like battle plans. Your mother's been busy, she says, reaching for the invitation. 3 people called me yesterday asking if you were doing okay. Apparently you're having some kind of breakdown. I pour more coffee into my mug, the rich scent momentarily grounding me. Virginia always excelled at mobilizing the troops. My phone buzzes with another text from a cousin. Family stands together in difficult times. Hope to see you at Sloane's special day. I set the phone face down without responding. The campaign to paint me as unstable while salvaging Sloane's celebration has been relentless. Social media posts with carefully constructed concern. Whispered conversations at church. My mother's tearful phone calls to relatives about her troubled older daughter. Corbin's parents are investing heavily, Tessa says, sliding a printed bank statement toward me. 50,000 transferred yesterday. They don't know what really happened, I reply. The statement joins our growing pile of evidence. Mr. Halbrook's careful documentation sits at the center of our work. Trust statements, withdrawal records, and the highlighted moral turpitude clause. Beside them rests the hospital records, the security footage still frames, and the damning audio recording of Sloane's own words. We're ready, Tessa says, organizing everything into a leather portfolio. Question is, are you? From the living room, Claire DeLune drifts through the house. Elodie, practicing again after a week of recovery. Her fingers still occasionally stumble over the passage where she collapsed, but she pushes through with quiet determination. This needs to happen publicly, I say, surprising myself with the steadiness in my voice. They made this public when they put my daughter on that stage, knowing what would happen. Tessa nods, her eyes reflecting both concern and respect. She's known me since college, has seen me bend and yield to family pressure countless times. But she recognizes something different now. Dr. Shapiro sent over the final medical documentation this morning, she says. The concentration of cortisol in Elodie's blood confirms she'd been without medication for exactly the timeline you suspected. He's included a statement about the potential fatal consequences. I close my eyes briefly, the memory of Elodie's pale face against the piano keys still razor sharp. When I open them, I catch sight of the small voice recorder on the table, Virginia's unintentional confession captured during a heated hospital corridor confrontation. She was just trying to teach Elodie a lesson about stealing attention. No one thought she would actually collapse like that. My phone rings, Mr. Halbrook, calling with confirmation that all documentation is finalized. As I answer, Tessa collects the scattered papers with practiced efficiency. Everything's in order, Meredith, Mr. Halbrook says, his voice carrying the gravitas of 4 decades of legal experience. The trust terms are explicit. If you choose to proceed, you have absolute authority. I understand, I reply. And I only need to tell the truth once. On the dinner rehearsal day, the Harborview Hotel ballroom glows with candlelight and floral arrangements when I arrive. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over round tables dressed in ivory linens. Not as lavish as the original botanical garden plans, but impressive given the last-minute arrangements. I smoothed the burgundy silk of my dress the same shade Elodie wore for her recital. A conscious choice. Heads turn as I walk through the entrance. Conversations pause mid-sentence. In the corner, Virginia freezes, champagne flute halfway to her lips. You weren't invited, she hisses, intercepting me before I can fully enter the room. I smile, the expression not reaching my eyes. Family stands together in difficult times. Isn't that what everyone's been telling me? Before Virginia can respond, Sloane appears, resplendent in ivory satin. Her smile looks painful at the edges. Meredith, she says, voice carrying for the benefit of nearby guests. What a surprise. But family is family, right? Her eyes tell a different story, a warning wrapped in artificial welcome. Across the room, Corbin's parents watch with confusion, clearly unaware of the undercurrents. His mother leans toward his father, whispering something that makes him frown. Wouldn't miss it, I reply, accepting a glass of champagne from a passing server. Beautiful arrangements. I move past them into the crowd, nodding at familiar faces, engaging in light conversation with key guests: Corbin's elderly grandmother, his father's business partner, the family pastor. All while Virginia hovers nervously at the periphery of each interaction. Sloane's composure fractures slightly each time she catches sight of me, calmly conversing with another guest. The control she expected to maintain slips with every passing minute. When Tessa arrives 45 minutes later, heads turn again, not because they recognize her, but because of the subtle tension that follows her entrance. She carries a small clutch that holds a thumb drive with our complete documentation. Our eyes meet across the room. She gives an imperceptible nod. I drain my champagne glass and set it on a nearby table. The time for polite conversation has ended. The carefully rehearsed confrontation I've prepared for begins now. As Sloane taps her glass for attention, preparing to make her first toast as the celebrated bride-to-be, I move quietly toward the small stage where the string quartet has been playing. Calculation, not emotion, guides each step. Behind me, Tessa approaches the hotel's audiovisual technician with the thumb drive. Sometimes protection requires confrontation. Sometimes justice demands an audience. The dinner plates are cleared as Corbin's father rises, tapping his glass for attention. The traditional toasts begin, heartfelt words about new beginnings and family bonds that twist in my chest like a knife. Sloane beams as speaker after speaker praises her kindness, her generosity, her loving nature. Each compliment feels like sandpaper against my skin. Finally, Sloane herself stands, glass raised high. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. Family has always been everything to me. Her eyes scan the room, landing briefly on me. To family standing together through thick and thin. The room responds with enthusiastic applause. Before it dies down, I rise from my seat. May I say a few words? I ask, my voice carrying across the suddenly quieting room. Sloane's smile freezes as I walk to the front. Virginia half rises from her chair before Mr. Halbrook's hand on her arm stops her. Someone hands me the microphone. I take a slow breath, centering myself. I'd like to speak about what family truly means. I begin, my voice steady despite the hammering in my chest. Behind me, Tessa has connected the thumb drive to the projector. The screen behind me flickers to life. My daughter nearly died at her recital because of what happened in this family. A murmur ripples through the gathered guests. Sloane's smile drops completely. These are Elodie's medical records. I gesture to the projected image of hospital documentation. Her condition, congenital adrenal hyperplasia, requires daily medication. Without it, her body can't produce necessary hormones, leading to collapse and potentially death. I click to the next slide. Security footage from the recital hall shows Sloane alone backstage, opening Elodie's bag. This is my sister tampering with my daughter's medication case. The room falls silent. And this, I press play on an audio file. Sloane's voice fills the room. She'll be fine. The kid needs to learn she's not special. Virginia's voice follows. No real harm done. Meredith overreacts to everything. I advance to the next slide. The trust documents, with the moral turpitude clause highlighted in yellow. My father established this trust to protect our family, to support medical needs and education. Not this. I click again, revealing photos of spa retreats, luxury purchases, and the $137,000 wedding budget all charged to the trust. Virginia surges to her feet. She's always been jealous of Sloane. But her outburst only draws attention to the financial evidence detailing years of embezzlement from the family trust. Corbin steps away from Sloane, his face ashen. Is this true? You tampered with a child's medication? She's twisting everything. Sloane's voice rises in panic. It wasn't dangerous. It was just to teach her a lesson about... About what? Corbin interrupts. About not stealing attention from you? About daring to have talent? He pulls the engagement ring from his finger and places it on the table. I can't be part of this. Around the room, guests begin gathering purses and jackets, murmuring excuses. Corbin's parents stand stiffly, their horror evident as they follow their son toward the exit. Virginia collapses into her chair, the social queen dethroned as her carefully cultivated world crumbles around her. Sloane makes one last desperate attempt, rushing toward me. You've ruined everything. This was my night. No, I say quietly, disconnecting the thumb drive. You did that yourself when you endangered my child. I walk toward the exit, pausing only to address Mr. Halbrook. The trust will now serve its original purpose. Behind me, the rehearsal dinner dissolves into whispers and departures, justice delivered in the most fitting way possible through simple, unvarnished truth. 6 months after the incident, golden light streams through the tall windows of the hospital conservatory, bathing the glossy black grand piano in warmth. Elodie's fingers dance across the keys, her burgundy dress matching the velvet bench cushion beneath her. The melody of Fur Elise floats through the air, gathering a small audience of young patients in wheelchairs and IV poles. I stand in the doorway, transfixed. My breath catches in my throat as Elodie finishes with a flourish that wasn't there before, a confidence that blooms across her face when the last note hangs in the air. She's remarkable, Tessa whispers beside me, her shoulder brushing mine. Harold would be so proud. A lump forms in my throat. Dad always knew she had something special. The children applaud, their thin arms raising with enthusiasm that belies their medical charts. A small boy with a bald head and Superman pajamas inches closer to the piano. Can you teach me? His voice barely carries across the room. Elodie slides to the edge of the bench, patting the space beside her. Of course, we'll start with something simple. I watch as my daughter guides his small fingers to the white keys, showing the same patience my father once showed her. The trust documentation tucked in my bag feels lighter now, papers that transform the Halbrook Family Trust into the Halbrook Children's Music Therapy Foundation. Virginia called. Tessa says, keeping her voice low. She's putting her condo on the market. I nod, unsurprised. The trust audit didn't leave her many options. And Sloan? Portland, last I heard. Corbin's family helped her relocate. I don't elaborate on the restraining order that prevents my sister from coming within 500 feet of Elodie. Some wounds heal cleaner with distance. Across the conservatory, Elodie beams as the boy plunks out a recognizable twinkle twinkle. The other children clap, their faces bright with something that's been too rare in these halls. Pure joy. 3 cousins called this week, I tell Tessa. Suddenly everyone wants to reconnect. Tessa snorts. Amazing how righteousness becomes attractive when it's backed by a multi-million-dollar trust. I'm being selective about which branches of the family tree I water. The sunlight shifts, casting rainbow prisms through the crystal paperweight on the piano, Dad's old desk ornament now serving as Elodie's good luck charm. 6 months ago, I could barely breathe through the panic. Now, boundaries rise strong as castle walls around what matters most. Mr. Halbrook appears beside us, his bow tie as perfectly centered as his moral compass. The scholarship committee approved 5 recipients for the fall program. He nods toward Elodie. Your father always said music heals what medicine can't reach. Next month, Elodie will perform Claire de Lune again. Same recital hall, same piece, but nothing else the same. Not the circle around us, not the trust's purpose, not the woman I've become. We're planning something special for the anniversary recital, I tell him. Elodie's idea, a duet with that young cellist from oncology. Tessa squeezes my arm. From crisis to creation, that's your superpower, Mur. I watch my daughter lean toward the boy, her hand steady over his as they find the next note together. This smaller circle, purged of poison, built on truth, feels more like family than the sprawling tree I was born into. Sometimes, I say, protecting what matters means standing alone, until you discover you never really were. The music continues, imperfect and beautiful, flowing from small hands learning to create rather than destroy. In this moment, the healing isn't just Elodie's, it's all of ours.